All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at the gold section of your review. So let's start with this first one. So it says the volume of a cube is 6.3 cubic meters. Write an equation for the volume of any cube in terms of the side length s. So this you just had to remember the formula, so it would be volume equals s cubed. So then it says, what is the length of each side to the nearest tenth of a meter? So that's referring to this specific one. We would have 6.3 equals s cubed. And the way that I want to do this is I want to take the cubed root of both sides. So if you take the cubed root of 6.3, you're going to end up getting 1 point. Now it says to round to the nearest tenth. So again, the cubed root will undo the third power. So you're going to be left with 1.8 approximately meters would be your answer. All right, looking at number 2, we're going to rewrite this equation. It says in terms of v, to find r in terms of v. So we want to solve this for r, in other words. So that's just a mathematical way that we want to solve this equation for r. So we want to get the r by itself. So I like to get rid of, it's best to get rid of the fractions first. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by 3. Now this is all one term. They're not separated by a plus or minus. That's the one mistake people make, is they multiply the 4/3 times a number, and then they multiply the pi times a number, and then r. No, this is all one term. So this 3 and that 3 basically cancel each other out to be left with 4 pi r cubed on the right and 3v on the left. Now, again, I'm trying to solve for r. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4 pi. So we're going to be left with r cubed equals 3v divided by 4 pi. Now again, I'm not done yet. I still want to get the r by itself. So I need to get rid of that exponent. So to get rid of that exponent, we're going to take the cubed root of both sides. So if I take the cubed root of both sides, again, that will undo each other. So we're going to be left with r equals, oops, and I forgot, it's cubed root. R equals a cubed root of 3v divided by 4 pi. So that would be your answer for 2a. So now we can use that answer from 2a to answer 2b. It says if a spherical ball has a volume of 500 cubic inches, what is the radius of the ball to the nearest length tenth of an inch? So we have the formula now that we need to be able to answer that question. So to find the radius, we're just simply going to take the cubed root of 3 times that volume, which is 500, divided by 4 pi. Now, if you did this on your calculator and you got the wrong answer, you really want to make sure that you do this in the proper order. Now, personally, I would just type in, because I know 3 times 500 would be 1500 divided by 4 pi. So what I would do is I would take 1500 divided by 4 pi first, so you get figure out what that decimal is, and then take the cubed root of that. Because otherwise, if you just typed in the cubed root of 1500 divided by 4 pi, chances are it'll only take the cubed root of the 1500 and not the 4 pi. So you'd have to remember to use parentheses, but that's why sometimes I just like to do it in steps. And when you break that up into 2 separate steps, whoops, what happened to my screen? Here we go. You get your final answer of approximately 10.6 inches is what that would be. All right, so for number 3, we want to graph the square root of x. Now, it's going to look something like this, is what our parent function looks like. If you were to look at that from like at the x and y axis, it would start at 0, 0, go up and to the right. If we want to be more specific, so I know it's going to start here at 0, 0, because the square root of 0 would be 0. And so I'm just going to plot a couple of points to make it easier. I'm going to use numbers that I can take the square roots of. So square root of 4 would be 2. Square root of 9 would be 3. Oops. So our graph would look something like that, where we would have a domain starting at 0 going to infinity, and the range would also start at 0 and go up to infinity. All right, let's look at the next one. So the next one, so for number 4, we have the square root of x plus 3. Now that plus 3 is happening directly with the x, so it's going to do the opposite of what we would expect. We're not going to move to the right 3 units, we're going to move to the left 3 units. So now that point that was at 0, 0 is going to be right here. So that means every point's going to move to the left 3 units. So that means at this point that was here, if we move it to the left 3 units, that would be right here. So that's going to be at that point. Because when x is 1, 1 plus 3 is 4, and the square root of 4 would be 2. And then same thing with that point that was at 9. That's going to move to the left 3 units. So that's going to be right there where x would be 6. When you can think of it, that 6 plus 3 would be 9. The square root of 9 would be 3. So that would, when x is 6, y would be 3. So that would be our graph for this one. So it's important to understand what the domain would be. The domain would start at -3 then and go to infinity. The range didn't go up or down at all, so the range starts still at 0 and goes up to infinity. All right, so that is the gold section. So that was a short section, so hopefully that was able to answer any questions you might have. And if not, make sure that you get those questions answered from your math teacher, whether it's me or whoever it might be, so then that way you know what to do for the test.